Thank you so much for coming in. Today I'm going to be interviewing you. I'm just going to be asking you several questions. You might find that some of them are odd to be asking you as a potential employee, but as your potential boss, it's very important for me to know you incredibly well. So please be seated, stay calm throughout the entire process, and answer truthfully. Let's begin. While you are working here, what are you saving your money for? Next, do you agree that there's an exception to every rule? Next, what was the last thing you fixed? Okay. Next, if a friend asked for an honest opinion, would you give it, no matter what? Next, what do you spend way too much time on? Way too much time on. You spend way too much time on this. You spend way too much time on this. Next, what pose would you like to be in if you were turned to stone? Stone. If you were stone, what pose would you like to be? Okay. Next, what's one thing you are glad you will never have to do again? You will never have to do again. You will never have to do again. Okay. Next, if you had unlimited funds and time, what 5 countries or places would you visit? 5 places that you would visit. Okay. 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 Next, which musical instrument do you dislike the most? Musical instrument that you dislike the most. That you dislike the most. Dislike, 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 dislike. Okay. Okay. Well, next, you are somehow teleported 6 feet to the right of where you are now. Would you survive in that location? Sort of a silly question since I can see where you are, but it's routine. It's routine. I must ask it. I must ask it. Okay. Next, what are you superstitious about? What's something you're superstitious about? Okay. Okay. Alright, next. What's been the highlight of your month so far? What's been the highlight of your month so far? Of your month so far. Next, who was the last person you high-fived? Okay. And how was the high five? Was it pleasant? Was it good? Was it satisfactory? Okay. What do you think is, quote unquote, so last year? So last year. This was so last year. What was so last year? Okay. Next, you suspect someone you know is involved in a crime. Would you report them to the police? Interesting. Okay. Next, who was the last person you had a staring contest with? And did you win? A staring contest with. A staring contest. You want to do one right now? Just kidding. Alright. Did you win? Okay. Alright. Next. What's been your hardest goodbye? Your most difficult goodbye? Most difficult goodbye. Okay. Thank you for being vulnerable with me and honest. Next, do you agree that you can never say never? You can never say never. Is that a true statement? What do you think? 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 What are you thinking? Okay, next. What are you very enthusiastic about that those around you find dull? What's something you're enthusiastic about that people around you find dull? D-U-L-L. Okay, I don't think that's dull. I think that's quite interesting. Quite interesting. Next, what posters did you have on your bedroom wall when you were growing up? Posters on your wall. What posters did you have? I can tell quite a good deal about a childhood's persona. What posters did you have on your wall? What posters? Posters. Next, where would you say your happy place is? What's a place you go to be happy? To be happy. Okay. Next, what was the last thing that you had to apologize for? The last thing that you had to apologize for. What was the last thing you had to apologize for? Okay. Next, what are your thoughts on euthanasia? Should it be legal? AKA the process of euthanization on human beings. Should it be legal? Thank you for your honesty. Next, what do you think is the secret behind the Mona Lisa's smile? The Mona Lisa's smile. What do you think is the secret behind the Mona Lisa's smile? Mona Lisa's smiles. What do you think? Next, what TV show do you prefer to watch on your own, by yourself, with no one else around? And why? Why do you want to watch it alone? Okay. Interesting. Okay. Next, what's your top tip for avoiding tears while chopping onions? Red onions, white onions, yellow onions. What's your secret to stop the tears from flowing down your cheeks? Very smart. Very smart. Good to know that someone on my team might have some strong onion cutting skills. Have you ever had a wish come true? What was that wish? Okay. Where would you like to go on your honeymoon? And if you've already had one, if you would like to go on one again, where would you want to go? And what would you want to do? What would you want to do? Okay. You're under threat at home. What do you use to defend yourself? What do you use to defend yourself? What do you use to defend yourself? Okay. Next, who was the last person to ruin your day? And how? How did they ruin your day? How did they ruin your day? What potentially life-threatening allergy would you least like to have? Next, you will be spending your next birthday alone. How will you celebrate it? Next, what one thing can you say with absolute certainty you will never own? Next, what was the last thing you had to leave work early for? What was the last thing you had to leave work early for? Next, what do you think is the saddest sound? The saddest sound. What's the saddest sound? Interesting. Very interesting. Next, what habits could you not tolerate in a roommate? Next, what's your stock response to when someone asks you, how are you doing? How do you respond when someone says, how are you doing? What's your stock response? Stock response. Interesting. Well, next, have you ever had something run out of battery at an inconvenient time? And what was it? I understand. Next, if you could change the outcome of one big event in history, what event would you change? Interesting. Okay. Next, what aspect of life before the internet do you find hardest to imagine? Like, what was it like before Google, for example? Next, if not you, who or what has this been an amazing week for? If not you, who or what has this been an amazing week for? Next, what famous person attracts the worst type of fan? They have the worst fan base. They have the worst fan base. Next, if you knew you wouldn't get caught, would you break the law? And which law would you break? How often do you personally connect with nature? And when you do, how do you do it? How do you connect? How do you connect with nature? Interesting. What do you wish people wouldn't eat on the street? What do you wish people didn't eat on the street? Next, what was the last thing you made up an excuse for to get out of doing something? When was the last time you made up an excuse to get out of doing something? Next, what thoughts have been at the forefront of your brain lately? What have you been thinking about? What have you been thinking about a lot lately? Okay. What TV show's final episode was the biggest disappointment to you? The biggest disappointment to you? The biggest disappointment to you? What will be the next big scientific breakthrough? What will be the next big scientific breakthrough? Do you agree that sorry is the hardest word to say? Sorry is the hardest word to say. Interesting. Where were you when you saw the prettiest sunset? Where were you when you saw the prettiest sunset? The prettiest sunset. Okay. And I just have a few last minute questions. Do you ever sleep on the job? Because I do not allow my employees to nap or sleep at all during their performance here at my workplace. Nobody should be sleepy or eepy. Nobody should be yawning or tired. You should be alive and awake during your hours here because I am paying you to work, not to test. Other than that, you seem great. You seem perfect. I'm gonna hire you and you're gonna start working on Monday. And I'm looking forward to seeing you 6 a.m. sharp.